The Netflix series Space Force opens with Mark Naird being promoted to a 4-star general. While he hopes to become head of the Air Force, pushing out rival General Kit Grabaston, Mark is instead made chief of the newly formed Space Force. Kit constantly butts heads with Mark, wanting Space Force to fall under his command in the Air Force. And so Mark and his family move to Colorado to achieve the ultimate mission of colonizing the moon. A year later, Mark's wife Maggie is serving time in a maximum security prison for an unknown crime, leaving Mark to juggle raising his teenage daughter Erin while running the dysfunctional Space Force. Mark's personal life is made even more complicated when Maggie asks to have an open relationship, and Mark tries dating a civilian contractor named Kelly. Members of Mark's team at Space Force include Dr. Adrian Mallory, the chief scientist who is constantly butting heads with Mark over his lack of scientific experience, Dr. Chan, Mallory's chief assistant, F. Tawny, Space Force's obnoxious social media director, Brigadier General Bradley Gregory, who basically serves as Mark's assistant, high school recruits Obi and Julio, and Captain Angela Ali, a Space Force helicopter pilot turned astronaut. As Mark tries to wrangle his dysfunctional staff, he also has to contend with a rival Chinese mission to colonize the moon. After successfully launching a satellite into orbit, a large Chinese spacecraft purposely damages it. And when Mark, against the wishes of Mallory, sends a chimpanzee named Marcus into space to fix the satellite, the Chinese spacecraft takes Marcus aboard their own ship. Upon launching a new satellite into space, Mark and his team discover that China had already secretly built a base on the moon's surface. Fearing that China would restrict all other moon landings upon fully establishing their base, Space Force rapidly accelerates their own plans. With no time to recruit experienced civilian workers for the lunar habitat, Mallory is forced to hire the horrifically inexperienced Space Force employees, Eddie and Pella. And so Captain Angela Ali leads the crew into space, but before they can land in the moon's Sea of Tranquility, the Chinese base claims it for themselves and forbids the US to land there. Mark and Mallory order Angela to land anyway, escalating the US-China conflict. When a Chinese rover runs over the American flag on the moon in retaliation, the US Secretary of Defense John Blandsmith orders the destruction of the Chinese lunar base and is willing to go to war against the wishes of Mark and the other generals. Well, all of the other generals except Kik, who sees this as an opportunity to take Space Force from Mark. When Mark refuses to order the attack on the Chinese base, Kik and his soldiers arrive in Colorado to arrest Mark and order the attack himself. To complicate things even more for Mark, his daughter Erin feels neglected by her parents and decides to act out, joining a group of strangers heading out to the middle of the desert to party. Upon arriving at their destination, Erin realizes it was less a party and more dangerous looking people doing hard drugs. She calls her parents, who were now both incarcerated, to help her. Mark escapes his cuffs and steals a helicopter to save Erin, while Maggie breaks out of prison with the help of her new guard girlfriend Louise. The Naird family was reunited, but that happiness is short-lived, as Mark receives a call from Brad, alerting him that the US and Chinese crews on the moon had both sabotaged each other's lunar bases and were now therefore in serious trouble. Mark was now forced to devise a plan to save his crew, while also under threat of being arrested due to disobeying Kik's orders. And that's everything that happened in Season 1 of Space Force. Let me know some of your favorite moments from the first season in the comments below, and what are you most looking forward to seeing in Season 2? Like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe to this channel for more content like it, and that does it for me in this video, but I'll see you in the next one.